Hey guys, how you going? Hope you're all doing very well. This afternoon I'm going to be doing another movie review. This movie is a horror film from Canada, French language English subs, released in the year 2023, directed by Pascal Plante. This film is called Red Rooms. So Red Rooms is about a serial killer. He has taken Canada by storm. He killed 3 teenage girls. He's been caught, now he's on trial. So it's the trial of the century, and the main character is obsessed with this story. She goes to the courtroom, she's seeing how the court case unfolds, and along the way she surfs the dark web where this serial killer has said to have done his things, and she is becoming lost in that dark world. And so the line between fantasy and reality is becoming increasingly blurred, and her psychological health is threatening to be destroyed. And so what happens at that point on is something you're going to have to find out for yourself, because that's as far as I'm going with my synopsis. Now my thoughts on Red Rooms. This is one of the very rare occasions where the unrealistic expectations as far as hype is concerned has not only been met, but blown out of the water. This film was absolutely phenomenal, and a lot of people have said it was phenomenal, but I just didn't believe it. I went in there with a lot of skepticism, believing that I was going to let myself down if I had those really high hopes, but after leaving this film I was shaken, and this is a clear example of not needing gratuitous violence and jump scares to actually make a chilling film. This is a horrifying film, but it doesn't have any violence. It has a little bit of blood, but it just doesn't have that gratuitous violence that you would associate with a regular horror film. This is certainly not a regular horror film, but if you're prepared to really go through this journey with this main character, it will leave the hairs on the back of your neck standing right up. This is a fascinating insight into a really damaged soul, and it's a fascinating insight in society's view on serial killers and how it's almost like they're celebrities that will follow their every move and that almost become fans of these serial killers. And that shows you how twisted society is, and this movie showed it in a way that I thought was terrifying. At the start of this movie, this beautiful model, she's going through the court case, she's looking at this serial killer, and you think to yourself, alright, well, she just has a morbid curiosity, but that morbid curiosity soon turns into something far more sinister, and I started to believe, okay, is she really a fan of this serial killer, or is she actually trying to make this serial killer confess in a way that I thought was actually really, really depraved? So I have to be careful not to give anything away here, because the less you know about this film, the better, but this is a psychologically tormenting and haunting film. There are some scenes in this movie that I thought will really burn into your memory, especially one involving when a serial killer looks at her. I'm not going to give too much away on that scene, but that was absolutely phenomenally well choreographed, and this movie really banks on its sound effects. Its score I thought was absolutely phenomenal, and the sound effects were terrifying because it really creates a demon inside your head. So you have the court case going on, and they are showing the videos of these girls getting killed, but they're not showing it. All that you can hear is the sound, and so that really paints that picture inside your head. It paints that monster, and that monster is far more terrifying than something that you would see as far as visualizing. When you visualize something, you have a sense of security because you know what you're up against. But when you're using your imagination, you can basically, there are no limits, and so nothing is off the table, and therefore you feel even more disturbed. And this movie psychologically absolutely tormented me. This is a film that I just thought had the darkest of dark hearts, and at the same time a movie that had a really, really strong purpose. As I said, it's putting those serial killers up on a pedestal into someone to admire, but then at the same time you have to think of the families that this specific person that has been idolised has destroyed. And so on the other side you have the families of these teenage girls, you have them mourning, but at the same time these people idolising these serial killers is playing a devastating effect on them. And so society has a lot to answer for as far as I said, that morbid curiosity with killers, and this movie really throws that onto the table and examines it in a way that I thought was still entertaining, if that's the word you could use, but at the same time extremely thought-provoking. So it's a movie that was right up there with Poughkeepsie Tapes as far as that really dark psychological torment is concerned. I thought the acting from the main character was absolutely phenomenal. She plays a role where she was very sympathetic at the start, but then as she gets more and more absorbed into this world, I felt as though this world was corrupting her. But then right at the end of the film, I didn't know whether or not she was trying to stop this serial killer, or she was actually wanting to be that fan of the serial killer. Was she really idolising him, or was she actually thinking of something else? And the movie never gives you a clear insight into her mentality. And so again, that was something that I thought was really good. The ambiguity to this movie was absolutely fantastic. So you'll be asking questions, and those questions won't be answered to a point where it's clear cut, and that to me is what amplifies that vulnerability, and it keeps that vulnerability. And at the end I just thought as though it was a movie where you had to catch your breath. This is a film that really hits you over the head, and it was one of the most depressing, cruel films that I've seen in a very long time. But as I said, a clear indication that you don't need gratuitous violence to really upset an audience. If you're willing to really turn on your brain and think about things and themes that this film is trying to depict, and also take note of the fantastic dialogue, then this is a movie that's really going to challenge you. The acting from the serial killer I thought was phenomenal. There's one scene in particular, as I said, where she looks at this woman and it sent chills down my spine. That was absolutely fantastic. One of my favourite scenes in any film. And so you'll see the movie and you'll know exactly what I mean. That was absolutely fantastically done. It's a horrifying experience because of the fact the dialogue is so strong. And as I said, those scenes of how we idolise serial killers, I just thought that morbid curiosity is definitely something that we all possess, but how far are you going to go with that? It also shows you the dark web and the dangers of the dark web and the myth of red rooms, basically. And so I thought that was all really interesting. There's a strong entertainment value, but it doesn't go over the top into gratuitous sort of value. It always keeps that level of respect. And so it's a thinking person's film, and if you're willing to go through it, I thought as though it was totally absorbing and absolutely fantastic. If I have issues with this movie, not a lot of people are going to love it because of the fact it's not your standard horror film, but if you like your courtroom sort of dramas that really go down into the dark depravity of human beings, then this is a film that I would highly recommend. One of the best I've seen in a very long time, and for that I'm going to give this film 4.5 stars. Alright guys, that's it for my review. Hope you enjoyed it. Till next time, keep watching movies, and I'll see you later.